Have you ever walked into a room, looked around, and immediately sized everyone up? Maybe you thought, I don't belong here. These people are nothing like me. Or maybe you thought the opposite. I'm not like them. I'm better. In recovery, we quickly learn that judgment, whether it's judging others or judging ourselves, can be one of the biggest barriers to healing. Today on Life's Terms, we're going to take a deep look at judgment, why it shows up, how it can sabotage our recovery, and more importantly, how we can let it go and learn to live in acceptance, compassion, and unity. Understanding judgment. Judgment is one of those subtle character defects that can sneak up on us. It doesn't always look like anger or resentment. Sometimes it looks like comparing ourselves to others, thinking, at least I'm not as bad as that guy, or I'll never be as good as her. Other times, judgment turns inward. We look in the mirror and pick ourselves apart, criticizing everything we've ever done wrong. We label ourselves as failures, unworthy, or broken beyond repair. In Narcotics Anonymous, we talk about how our disease distorts our perception. Addiction tells us lies. It tells us we're better than everyone else, or worse than everyone else. Judgment is one of the tools the disease uses to keep us isolated, disconnected, and alone. Why we judge. Why do we judge? For many of us, it's about fear. Fear that we don't measure up. Fear that someone else is getting something we're not. Fear that if people really knew us, they'd walk away. Judgment can also come from pride. When we put ourselves above others, it gives us a false sense of control. It makes us feel powerful, at least for the moment. But in recovery, we start to see how this defense mechanism no longer serves us. Instead of protecting us, judgment keeps us stuck. It prevents us from experiencing real connection with other people. It shuts us off from love and from God's grace. And it feeds resentments that can eventually lead us back to using. Judgment in the rooms. Think about your first NA meeting. Maybe you sat in back, arms crossed, scanning the room. You might have thought, these people aren't like me. Maybe you judged their clothes, their age, the way they spoke. Or maybe you judged yourself thinking, I don't belong here. I'm worse than everyone else. The truth is, judgment blocks us from hearing the message. When we're too busy comparing, we can't relate. But the program reminds us the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. The value doesn't come from being the same. It comes from being willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to put judgment aside long enough to realize the person you think you have nothing in common with might be the one who saves your life. How judgment hurts us. Judgment can feel powerful, but it's really poison. When we judge others, we separate ourselves. We create walls instead of bridges. We start to believe that some people are beneath us. And when we do that, we forget our own truth, that we are addicts just like them. When we judge ourselves, we can get trapped in shame. Shame whispers, you'll never be good enough. It convinces us that we don't deserve recovery, don't deserve love, don't deserve a second chance. And if we believe that lie long enough, we stop trying. We give up. That's why judgment is so dangerous in recovery. It's not just about being critical. It's about cutting ourselves off from the very connection we need to stay clean. The role of the steps. The 12 steps give us a way to face judgment and transform it. Step 4 asks us to take a fearless moral inventory, to look honestly at ourselves without excuses, but also without condemnation. We write down our resentments, our fears, and our harms, not so we can beat ourselves up, but so we can see the truth clearly. Step 5 then invites us to admit our wrongs to God, ourselves, and another human being. And something powerful happens in that step. The judgment we carried, the shame we've hidden, starts to lose its power when it's spoken out loud in an atmosphere of trust. Later in steps 6 and 7, we begin to let go of defects of character, including judgment. We humbly ask for help to be relieved of the burden of judging others and of judging ourselves. And the traditions remind us that unity is the foundation of our fellowship. If we're busy judging, gossiping, or dividing ourselves, we lose focus on our primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. Practicing acceptance. One of the most powerful tools we have against judgment is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean we have to like everything or everyone. It means we stop trying to control the world around us. We stop insisting that people live up to our standards or that life conform to our expectations. In meetings, we learn to listen instead of compare. We discover that every addict's story, no matter how different, contains pieces of our own. We begin to see people as they are, not as we want them to be. And we start practicing acceptance with ourselves too. We may not be perfect, but we're not hopeless. We are human beings learning to live without drugs, one day at a time. That acceptance opens the door to healing. Tools to let go of judgment. So how do we actually let go of judgment in daily life? Here are a few tools we learn in recovery. 1. Awareness. The first step is noticing when we're judging. Pay attention to your thoughts. Are you criticizing someone in your head? Are you comparing yourself constantly? Just notice it without shame. 2. Pause and pray. Before we speak, before we react, we can pause. A simple prayer, God help me see this person with love, can change everything. 3. Practice empathy. Remember that everyone has a story. Just like us, they've struggled, stumbled, and hurt. When we put ourselves in their shoes, judgment turns into compassion. 4. Gratitude. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we spend less time criticizing others. Gratitude opens our hearts. 5. Service. One of the best ways to overcome judgment is to help. When we serve others, we stop asking, what's wrong with them, and start asking, how can I show love today? These tools don't make us perfect, but they keep us growing, and that's what recovery is all about. A story of change. I want to share a story. Early in recovery, I remember sitting in a meeting, staring at this one guy across the room. He was loud. He interrupted people. He laughed at things I didn't think were funny. And honestly, I couldn't stand him. For weeks I sat there judging him in my head. He's so annoying. You never get it. Why does he even come here? One night after a meeting, he came up to me and said, "Hey, you look new. Want to grab a cup of coffee?" I almost said no, but something in me softened and I said yes. Over coffee, he told me his story. It turned out he had been through things I couldn't even imagine. Childhood trauma, homelessness, years in and out of jail. And yet, he was sitting across from me, clean, showing up, and reaching out to help someone else. In that moment, my judgment melted into gratitude. Gratitude that I wasn't alone. Gratitude that someone cared enough to reach out. Gratitude that I was in a place where empathy replaced censure. Turning judgment into growth. The truth is, judgment will still creep in. We are human. We'll catch ourselves criticizing, comparing, or condemning. But the miracle of recovery is that we don't have to stay there. Every judgment can become an opportunity. When I notice myself judging someone today, I ask, what is this saying about me? What defect is being revealed? Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes it's insecurity. Sometimes it's fear. And when I see it clearly, I can take it to step 6 and 7 and ask my higher power to remove it. Judgment can become a teacher. It points out where I still need to grow. It reminds me that recovery is not about being perfect. It's about progress, humility, and love. In recovery, judgment doesn't disappear, but it doesn't have to control us either. Each time we notice ourselves comparing or criticizing, we have a choice. We can stay stuck in pride and fear, or we can use that moment as a doorway to deeper growth. By bringing those defects into light and turning them over through steps 6 and 7, we find freedom that self-will never gave us. What once felt like a weakness becomes a teacher. Every judgment reminds us that we are still learning, still changing, still being shaped into people of humility, compassion, and love. That's the heart of living on life's terms. It's not about perfection. It's about progress, honesty, and courage to grow, one day at a time. Thanks for spending these moments with me. If this message gave you hope, share it with someone who might need it today. And don't forget to subscribe for more recovery encouragement. I'm a recovering addict named Steve, and this has been On Life's Terms.